We're all going through a journey. Certain people call this journey a roller coaster, with ups and downs and twists and turns. If you're trying to find your way through all the chaos and obstacles of youth, it can be overwhelming. But you're not alone. We'll be sharing stories of others who've faced and overcome similar challenges, and we'll be learning how to reconnect with your faith. Being steadfast. This is the quality that we most identify with believers since the beginning of time. But when neighbors and friends and family stood against them, hasn't their prayer always been, "O our Lord, make us steadfast and grant us help against a disbelieving people"? Today, we bring you just that, a story about faith, perseverance, and sacrifice. But enough from me. Let's get right into it.
And when he told me that, okay, you are reading Qadiani books, I just heard about, and this triggered something in me, and I said, okay, there is something that they want to hide.
On today's show, we'll be speaking to Shiraz Ahmed, a 37-year-old Qadam from Dallas, Texas. Shiraz has a fascinating story. He was raised as a Sunni Muslim in Pakistan, adopted the Ahle Hadith sect for a while before finally accepting Ahmadiyyat. But his journey to finding his true faith started with a simple question, a question about wuzu. So, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Shiraz bhai.
Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
In his high school days, Shiraz has unknowingly entered the Ahle Hadith mosque to offer the Friday prayers. As he is doing his wuzu, Shiraz is confronted.
I was going to the Sunni mosque, but then there was another mosque that was belongs to Ahle Hadith sect, and I said, "Oh, that mosque is near. Why not? I just go over there. What's the point of going far?" So I went over there, and I started doing wuzu at the time of the prayer. The imam of the mosque was also there, and he was doing wuzu, and he saw me doing some rituals that some Sunnis do during the wuzu, and he said, "Do you know what you are doing is the right thing or right way to do wuzu?" And I said, "Look, as I know, I was told that this is the right way." And he said, "No, we have to follow what Quran and Hadith and Sunnah is to say. We have to research and find out the correct way." So that was my first instance that I started finding what is right and what is wrong. And then I go through all the hadiths related to the topic of prayer and wuzu and all that timing. And then as the time goes on, I read Muslim's volume as well. I read Ibn Majah as well. So this gives me the understanding, okay, this made my baseline of my journey to finding my faith was that whatever I have to do, I have to go through Quran and Hadith and Sunnah. But after passing 1 year and going through all this process, I figured out that Ahle Hadith are also the same kind of Sunnis, and all other sects are almost same. What they say, the only difference between the Ahle Hadith and all the sects is that they say that, okay, we have to follow Quran and Sunnah and in every aspect of life. When it comes the time to implement that thing in every aspect, they just go on back foot. But when it comes to the real world problems, the problems the people are facing, the corruption, the bribery, and all that poorness and hunger, we have no solution. We never want to go to Quran or the Islam to find a solution.
A wise person learns from observing others around him. Shiraz Saab saw the corruption around him, and he asked himself, what is the solution? Is it Islam?
And I was really curious that, okay, my Islam is only just doing some few things that I have to do. The Islam does not have a solution for all the problems of all these politicians have no other way to find a solution. And then this leads me to, okay, whatever I know, I will keep it myself, but I will not associate myself to a group or a sect. And I say, oh, I am part of this group or I am part of that group.
After battling with the beliefs internally for some time, Shiraz Saab reflected on the Holy Quran, and it gave him strength and conviction that there has to be a better way.
So at that time, I worked with a lot of Ahmadis, but I didn't have like that kind of wildness in me that I should go and fight with them. Oh, you are Ahmadi or you are Kafir or blah, blah. But in 2012, this November, my brother, who already accepted Ahmadiyya 2 years earlier than me, but I didn't know that, he asked me a few questions. He said, what's your understanding? He was an Ahle Hadith before, just like me, before my hand, because of my influence, because I was the elder one. And
so you converted him to Ahle Hadith.
Yeah.
And then secretly he went and converted to Ahmadiyya.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he asked me a question and he said, what's your understanding about death of Jesus? And what's your understanding of Khatam al-Nabiyyin and Nasikh Mansukh, the concept of Quranic versus abrogated? And that is the point, that was the first introduction to me, to my brother. But I didn't know that he's already an Ahmadi. He took me to the Tabligh secretary, Lahore, and I went over there for 3 hours at the first session, and he talks and he talks and talks. And I already had that thing in my mind that Quran Hadith is the way to go. And when he presented all those arguments from Quran Hadith, I was like, he shut me out. I have no way to go anywhere. I have no argument to make a question even that, oh, why are you? Because his arguments was Quran and Hadith. If I have believe on this thing, then I have to follow it. So that is my first introduction to Ahmadiyya. It was kind of like a thing that is like making me starting a light inside me. So he said, okay, I gave you a basic things, but here it is, the Tafsir-e-Kabir, volume 10. Go take home and read more, you will get more knowledge.
The Tabligh secretary gave him Tafsir-e-Kabir. Shiraz Sahib was impressed by the stress on the Holy Quran and Hadith. Everything was derived from these sources. However, unfortunately, his wife wasn't so welcoming.
But my wife saw that book and she started like arguing, why are you reading this book? And this was like a pinch to me, that why she's arguing, even she doesn't know what is in the book. And I said, look, it's a book of tafsir, just like Ibn Kathir, written a few hundred years ago. It's a new tafsir. I just want to read it. And she said, no, this is a Qadiani book. This is a Kafir book. I said, what is meant by Kafir book? Done my bachelor's and master's in computer science. So those were also written by Kafirs. What is the problem with this book? And she said, no, anybody can write any book, but the Quranic tafsir only be written by Muslims. And I said, how you decide that they are non-Muslim? And she said, no, I don't want to argue, but just put this book away. Otherwise I will burn it out. I will tear it down.
Oh, wow. Brother-in-law called from South Africa, stressing to stay away from Ahmadiyyat and any Jamaat literature.
And he said, I heard that you're reading some Qadiani books. And I was like amazed at how he know that an incident that happened last night, and it is barely like 12 hours or 15 hours in the past. And then I realized, okay, my wife must have told him, this was like a arrow going through my heart. And now this was kind of my passion. Now I have to learn more. I have to find more. Why they are pushing me away. So this was the starting point for me to like really jump on and go towards Ahmadiyya.
As the resistance to his journey towards true faith grew and the obstacles increased, so did his conviction. He continued to meet with the Tabligh secretary. God provided him with evidence which he could see himself. The rest was up to him to decide.
I started reading the philosophy of Islamic teachings. And this was like, when I was reading that book, it took me like over a month to complete that book. I was in the middle when my brother-in-law came to me, bring those books. But this was kind of, when I was reading that book of Teachings of Islam, the philosophy, this was giving me some other kind of world. It took me some other world. And I was amazed that if this is Islam, then I wasted my 30 years of my life. That I didn't know that this is Islam. And that was my like pushing me towards the truth more, that, okay, now I have to do more. I have to more study. I have to do more. And
but at what point did you say that Ahmadiyyat's it?
So I was, when I got these books, I was reading. And in the meantime, my brother took me another time for the Tabligh secretary. And that time there were more people available and he was talking more other stuff and all those things. I was going through Lahore Secretariat. There is a Darus Salam, there is a bookstore by Al Hadith. And I said, they must have a dictionary. I want to just look for Khatam al-Nabiy's meaning. And I went over there, they had a dictionary, and English to Arabic, and I saw they have mentioned what is meant by Khatam. Khatam means the muhr, the seal. And Khatim means the last. And I said, look, in the dictionary, they are also mentioning the same meaning, why they are lying. So that in the third meeting, and before the third meeting, I said, look, I have enough knowledge to accept Ahmadiyyat because that is the way of light that I am seeing. So I told my brother that I want to do the Bai'at, and in the third meeting, I did the Bai'at.
He had finally taken the big step, done Bai'at. He traveled to the USA for work for a while, so his wife and others did not know about his conversion. However, this reprieve only lasted for a little while. He finally had to return to Pakistan and face the music.
So after that, when I went back to the office, my office people find out and they fired me that I'm an Ahmadi now. And this was the starting point that when I saw that, okay, the things getting harder for me. And my wife find a letter that I wrote to Hazur from my bag, and she started arguing, okay, now you did Bai'at already and all, you are an Ahmadi and you've become a kafir and all those things. And I tried to tell her, okay, let's talk about it. It's not that simple. But she didn't realize, and she was just in a thing that she was just forcing me to, okay, you have to leave it, you have to leave it, you have to leave it. But this was not like some kind of like a thing that you just do it for some materialistic thing. This was my heart changed, and I cannot go back. When I have a T-shirt that has written Khuda, MKA, and she cut it down with the scissors and she burned it down. And this was she was giving me mental torture, but I said, okay, let's hold on, let's see when she takes time.
His only way to safety was to go back to the USA. So then he announced his conversion openly, and of course this decision came with many difficult consequences.
The moment I said to my brother-in-law that, okay, I'm an Ahmadi, and he started yelling at me and threatening me for my life, that he was giving me threats already in Pakistan. But this time he gone to a far extent, and he said, okay, now you are a kafir, you are not Muslim anymore, and you cannot live with your wife and your children. So we are taking them away. And that is the time that my wife called me, and she said, you didn't realize that you have a wife and children and you accepted Ahmadiyyat? This is kafir, this is not Islam. I said, what are you talking about? Did you ever ask me what is Ahmadiyyat is?
Wife turned away, the children he had raised lovingly taken away. His own family turned on him. In this state, he was in this new and foreign country, having given up everything for the sake of God.
But when I saw that my wife is going towards too far against the actual Islam, and that took me to this far extent, okay, that is enough. I have to save my Islam first, because I have no idea when I'm going to die. Yeah. So I'm answerable to Allah. When Allah will ask me, oh, why you did not keep your Islam, and what answer I will give him?
The journey had been full of obstacles, but things afterwards became even harder. Shiraz Sahib had faced many difficulties, but at the end of the day, these trials and tribulations made him even stronger.
The only thing that what comes to my mind was that, look, what are the different hurdles what the companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has bared for Islam. The only one example was enough for me, that Hazrat Bilal, who even doesn't know the Arabic language, he accepted Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and what happened to him? He was laid down on the hot sand, and the people put a heavy rock on his chest and said, oh, leave Islam, and he always say ahad, ahad. And this ahad was stick to my mind that, okay, I am doing it for Allah, and Allah will take care of it. I don't need a family if Allah is not with me. So that is keep giving me this power still now that Allah is with me.
A powerful testimony of faith through the many personal sacrifices. These are examples that we hear about all across the world. It reminds us of the early Islamic sacrifices, the ones that uplift us and attract us. These stories are still alive today.
And now I am seeing all those things that is happening to me. Those are miracles that I never realized that it can happen to me. That never happened to me. And since the day I accepted Ahmadiyya, he made up my way to come to US. He made up my way for my risk, for my placement, for my jobs, for my relocation, everything. It's from him. I cannot even thank him. I don't have that power.
Now God granted Shiraz Saab a new family, above all a spiritual father.
Before this COVID situation, I was always getting letters from Hazur, and he always telling me two things: that whatever the problem comes in, you have to recite the Durood Sharif and do Astaghfar. You will get through everything. And I always get this message, and this is I never thought that that somebody that who is not my father, who is not a relative, who is nothing towards me, other than a Khalifa of the time, that he has so much love for me that he wants me to succeed in this world and in the next world, and he's showing me the way.
तुझसे एक लम्हा मुलाकात के बाद अपने दुख दर्द भूलते हैं लोग. The day finally arrived when he could meet Hazur in Houston in 2018. And due to his background in Ahle Hadith, he made up his mind that he would not kiss Hazur's hand. But heavens had other plans.
My intention was I was not going to kiss his hand. But I don't know. I didn't see at that time when I met Hazur, I didn't see anybody kissing his hand or leaving, because he was in the room, I was outside. And when my name was called and I came in, and something triggers in me, and I was on his hand. I didn't realize. How I can describe that situation, that when I kissed his hand, he didn't bother. But after that, he grabbed all my two hands and he said, tell me about yourself. And I told him about myself. And he was holding my hand all the time I was there. It was like 30 or 35 seconds that I was there. But he held my hand like a father.
Coming to the end of our conversation, it was obvious to see how courageous Shiraz Bhai had been in the search for his truth. Having given up his family, his friends, even his homeland in order to fully accept and practice the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, I asked him what advice he would give to Qadam listening to his story.
We have to be an Ahmadi by choice, not by just mere by birth, that I born as an Ahmadi. And for by choice, we have to go back to Quran and Sunnah and Hadith. And for that, what is the right point of contact is the Khalifa of the time. The basic principle is that you have to follow the Khalifa of the time, regardless what other people are saying. If any Ahmadi Khadim wants to get success, they have to listen to the Khalifa of the time. Whatever he's saying, we have to follow it, because I believe he is from God. And anybody who is from God cannot tell a religious thing or a religious activity by his own meaning. It is coming from Allah.
Alhamdulillah. At the end of the day, these struggles that you go through is by Allah's grace. It could be against your inner self, an outer obstacle, society, and even your family. But Allah will grant you refuge and plentifulness. It's His eternal promise. I hope that's what you took away from Shiraz's story. Join us again for another inspiring story on Finding My Faith.